everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com with another exciting batch of lovely wrestling news. Yes, we have news on Brock Lesnar, his free agency. Will AEW be in touch? Well, they have commented on the situation, so we'll take a bit of a deeper look at that. Also, AJ Styles has commented on Paul Heyman going over to SmackDown after, of course, AJ Styles publicly blasted Paul Heyman for prior arguments between the two, or lies, as AJ Styles said, that Paul Heyman had told him. Lots more news as well to cover, so without any further ado, let's get into those headlines. First of all, yes, AEW have commented on Brock Lesnar and his free agency. Next up, as we mentioned, AJ Styles has addressed Paul Heyman's move back to SmackDown. And finally, a WWE legend is getting his very own cartoon series. We'll find out who in just a bit. So first of all, Brock Lesnar, of course, as we all know, is now a free agent, no longer contracted with WWE. It's prompted a wave of speculation. Will he end up going somewhere else to wrestle? Will he go back to MMA? Will he just not wrestle at all? Is that it for Brock Lesnar? Or will he come back to WWE in the future? Well, AEW, and specifically Chris Jericho, have given their thoughts on the situation. Speaking in an interview with Sportskeeda, Jericho said, well, the reason the rumors are only out there is because somebody said free agent. I don't think he is a free agent at all. I think it would take so much money to pry him away from Vince McMahon on Brock's end, and then for Vince to approve that. He goes on to say, Vince has $2 billion in the bank. What are you going to spend on Brock Lesnar that Vince isn't going to match? Vince and Brock have a strange love affair to begin with. Would Brock fit in AEW? Would Brock pay back his salary that you would pay to him? Who's to say? But I think that UFC and AEW is just another one of those dances Brock likes to have where Brock's contract expires. He goes on to explain this strange dance, this strange love affair that Brock and Vince have, saying that Vince then lets it expire and they kind of stay away from each other for a few months until the next Saudi Arabia show or the next show that has people in it, or WrestleMania. I don't think Brock is a free agent in that sense of the word. I just think he's not currently under contract right now. It's a very interesting point of view from Chris Jericho, and one that I think we should probably take quite a bit of truth from, because obviously Jericho's been there in WWE for many, many years. He's seen how Brock Lesnar negotiates with Vince McMahon, and he's seen this kind of cycle repeat again and again. And we've seen it as well as fans, haven't we, to a lesser degree. We've seen Brock mysteriously disappear for a while, then come back for a little short run, or sometimes a longer run, and then disappear again when he feels like it's time to have some time off. But Jericho wasn't the only person talking about Brock Lesnar, or at least, well, he was the only person deliberately talking about it, but Tony Khan was asked about Lesnar during the AEW All Out media call. Of course, All Out is on Saturday. We're doing a live stream, so pay attention to that. And Tony Khan was asked about Brock Lesnar and said that he couldn't comment, but he did put over how great a fighter Lesnar is and says that he doesn't get enough credit. I assume he means a UFC fighter, because Lesnar is often ridiculed as somebody who lost some fights that maybe he shouldn't have, or was comprehensively beaten by people like Cain Velasquez, for example. But we do forget that Lesnar, when he was younger, was in fact a UFC heavyweight champion and did beat the likes of Frank Mir, for example. I mean, he's not a bad fighter. I wouldn't take on Brock Lesnar, is what I'm trying to say. So very interesting stuff there. Jericho seems skeptical and Tony Khan seems cagey about the whole situation. If I had to put money on it, I would assume that Lesnar is just going to go back to WWE when the time is right or when the offer is right. But I'm not entirely certain. You never know what can happen in the world of pro wrestling. For example, would we have ever thought that Jericho would show up in New Japan when he did? I think that pretty much shocked the world. But speaking of that media call, let's take a look at some of the highlights of that media call. Of course, the one preceding AEW All Out, one of their biggest shows of the year, and one with a lot of hyped matches in it. Tony Khan did a 1 hour long media call on yesterday afternoon, hitting a variety of topics from this Saturday's All Out. So let's just run through a few of the highlights. First of all, Khan said that he expects All Out to be the best wrestling show since, the lockdown era started. Now, it does have a very good card, and it certainly has the potential to be the best show since lockdown started. But Tony Khan also said that Moxley versus Swagger was the best empty arena match he'd ever seen. And some people might have agreed. I didn't. I've also realised I said Swagger, I meant Jake Hager, of course. Moving swiftly on, he says that while putting over their own COVID testing and everything that went into it, he said also, I thought Double or Nothing kicked the crap out of WrestleMania. This one sparked a bit of backlash on social media, with a lot of people saying WrestleMania was better. Personally, I think I actually prefer Double or Nothing, but both shows have their merits. I don't know if it was a comprehensive victory like Tony Khan is putting across here, but obviously he's going to say that AEW did better. He's the AEW guy. Interestingly, and this was a point that was touched upon by, I think it was Jericho a little while ago, about how there were too many championships in AEW, and the FTW title was one of them that he deemed surplus to requirements. It's not really a real title, it's just a ceremonial one that Cage has, like the $1 Million Championship. Well, Tony Khan has said that the FTW title will be defended, and he's working on a pilot on how to make it different from the World and TNT titles. Very interesting stuff there. One of the big talking points ahead of All Out is, of course, the fact that Dr. Britt Baker and Big Swole is on the pre-show, despite that being a feud that has been built up for quite some time, and one of the matches, for example, on the main portion of the show was only arranged this week on Dynamite. So a lot of people were annoyed about that. Obviously, Britt Baker's return from injury is a big talking point too. So it is sad to see them on the pre-show, and something that I personally disagree with. He was questioned about this and answered that in the pre-show, his philosophy is to put big names and stars in front of more viewers to help drive pay-per-view buys. He did confirm the match is going to be cinematic in nature because Baker's still recovering from her injuries, and it is, of course, a tooth and nail match, which is said to be in Britt Baker's dentist surgery. Now, I don't think that is true. I don't think often bigger names do go on the pre-show. I think that sometimes interesting matches, or unique or silly ones, like that one with Jay Bailey versus Nakazawa, do go on the pre-show, but I don't think it's usually bigger names. And Britt Baker is certainly maybe the biggest name in the women's division right now. Speaking of another stipulation match on the card, he clarified a little bit the rules of the Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara match. Of course, the loser, oh no, not the loser, but if Matt Hardy loses, then he must leave AEW. Well, Tony Khan clarified that basically the broken rules match is essentially going to be a last man standing style affair, and obviously if Matt loses, then it's a loser leaves town scenario. But of course, because it's broken rules, I think it's not going to be a straight up last man standing match. We're going to get the Matt Hardy wackiness that we're used to by now. And finally, one last thing worth mentioning from that media call, I think, is the fact that Tony Khan said that the Dynamite after All Out is going to be really, really good, with some surprises too. Oh, very interesting stuff. Next up, let's go to AJ Styles, because of course he recently just bashed Paul Heyman. It was in the wake of the podcast with Gallows and Anderson talking about their release, and AJ Styles said that basically he and his friends were lied to by Heyman, and that he doesn't really want anything to do with Heyman anymore. It seemed to be fine, because Heyman was on Raw and then removed from his position at the top of Raw. Styles was on SmackDown. It didn't seem like they were going to cross paths again anytime soon. And then of course Roman Reigns turned back up on SmackDown with Paul Heyman in tow as his manager. So now they're back. Hooray. And Styles was asked on his own personal Twitch stream about this and said, "It is what it is. I could care less. It's water under the bridge. Not saying that I've forgotten what he's done, but I'm not going to be the guy who holds a grudge. I'm not like that. Okay, you know you peed me off." Can I say that? I should know this by now. You peed me off. You know how I feel. I may not ever trust you again. Can I get along with him professionally? Absolutely. Doesn't mean I'm going to be mean to him or say anything. It's over. My buddies, Gallows and Anderson, are doing fine. And part of the reason, of course, that they did fall out was because Styles blamed Heyman for being a big factor in allowing Vince McMahon to release Gallows and Anderson after saying basically to them, "Oh no, you're safe here, don't worry about that." But just because of the way that the professional wrestling industry works, would you be too surprised to see AJ Styles just suddenly put into an angle involving Paul Heyman just for one of those big ribs, just for one of those laughs that we all love to see in the wrestling business? I wouldn't be too surprised to see it happen, but at the moment, because Styles is a heel and Reigns is acting very heelishly, maybe their paths won't, cross very soon. Next up, just a brief one before our last story. Sasha Banks took to Twitter and basically revealed what her dream match would be, or announced that she wants a dream match with a certain Japanese wrestling legend, and it's none other than Meiko Satomura. On her Twitter, she put, "I want to wrestle you, Meiko Satomura. I hope that one day we can make that happen." And at first when I saw this, I thought, yeah, as if, how is that ever going to happen? And then obviously realized, oh wait, Satomura was in WWE for a while, and I just totally forgot that had happened. Satomura, of course, entered the 2018 edition of the Mae Young Classic, was one of the favorites as well because of how hard and badass she is. She got to the semi-finals, defeating the likes of Lacey Lane, Killer Kelly, and Mercedes Martinez en route, but didn't win the whole thing, of course, but was really, really impressive in her performances. She put on some absolutely fantastic performances in that tournament. And I think I speak for a lot of other fans when I say that Sasha Banks versus Satomura would be an amazing match if it were ever to happen. I don't know if WWE would have any real drive behind wanting to make it happen, but I certainly hope that someone sees this tweet from Sasha Banks and thinks, that's a good idea, let's try and do it once the lockdown is over. I would absolutely love to see that, and I think a lot of other fans would as well. And finally, a WWE legend is getting his own cartoon series, and it's Rey Bloody Mysterio. Let's find out a little bit more. So Cartoon Network Latin America have announced that it's closed an agreement with the founders of Viva Calavera to produce the animated project Rey Mysterio, just called Rey Mysterio. And in all the press and stuff that's come out in the wake of this announcement, this is basically the blurb, the synopsis, the brief little introduction, the hook for the show. It says that Rey Mysterio will tell the story of Mysterio, but with a twist. There is unimaginable forces threatening our world, and it's up to Rey to save the day. Can Rey Mysterio do it? I'd wager yes. I'd probably say he's going to win. And Lucha Central have also released a bit of a statement, a bit of a follow-on from that previous little bit, saying that when his number one fan discovers this secret about unimaginable forces, I assume, threatening the world, together they will immerse themselves in a world where the excitement and adrenaline of wrestling coexists with, ready for it, mystery, mythology, history, magic, and supernatural beings. I'm watching this already. It sounds like it's going to be amazing. I'm on board. I'm fully on board. Mysterio himself has spoken on this as well, saying after 35 years, wow, after 35 years of career and multiple achievements, I was still missing something. I always wanted an animated series with the character of Rey Mysterio, and when the Hermanos Calavera presented their idea to me, I was immediately captivated. Working with Cartoon Network has been incredible. I can't think of anyone better than this group to make the project a reality. I'm genuinely excited for this. So that is it for our second news video today. Do check out Tom Campbell's news video earlier today for another batch of wrestling news. Thank you very much for watching. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And of course, stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.